Hi guys. So this video is my response to Jurgen Klinsmann's 23-man roster selected for the USA national team in the World Cup. Let me just say I'm pretty disappointed on some of the selections, to say the least. Mostly because of Landon Donovan not being on the World Cup. Now, before I begin this little rant, let me just say Jurgen Klinsmann is a better soccer player and a better coach than I will ever become in my life. But being said, I still have an opinion on some of his selections. Basically, I think he could have wrote a book on how to not select the right players for the World Cup. I mean, some of the selections he made were terrible, and the people that he cut were obviously not the ones. Like, I'll begin even before he picked the 30-man roster. He left out Eddie Johnson, which I thought was an incredible mistake. First off, I mean, but I'll let that one slide. You know, not perfect. Maybe he had his reasons. Even though Eddie Johnson would have been a perfect fit for the roster. He was a guy that stepped up when he was needed the most. I mean, without him, let's go take it back to when they played Antigua and Barbuda in the qualifying. They would have lost if it wasn't for Eddie Johnson scoring those 2 goals in that game. And he played a big help in the final stages of the qualifications. Anyway, I thought he would have been a great start, a great person for the starting lineup, but didn't get it for whatever reason, whatever. And that should have been a red flag that we should have known that he wasn't going to pick the best choices. But besides that, he assembled the 30 players and sent them in. And when I found out that Donovan was left out of the 23-man roster, I was crazy. And it wasn't even just Donovan. He didn't even select Brad Evans, Clarence Goodson, or Corona. But he would pick someone like Julian Green, Beckerman, Chandler Brooks, Yedlin, I think that's how you pronounce his name. He will pick them over Donovan. That's just ridiculous. I would like to have seen the thought process of the decision making. I mean, granted, let's all remember that Jurgen is the one who's been working with these guys every day for the past few weeks in their training, and we haven't. I certainly haven't. So he would know who's better who. It's strange that they would even make the final 23 without even playing their qualification against Azerbaijan in a few days' time. Should have at least had a game with these players and then see what happens. But here's the big thing, just the fact that Donovan was left out. And I'll tell you this, many reasons why he should have. Because by far he's still one of the best players on the team, regardless of what anyone says. I know a lot of people are like, well, he's not doing so well right now with Galaxy. Well, yeah, if we were to put that logic that he wasn't doing, let's look at Altidore. I mean, I'm glad Altidore made it to the World Cup, but geez, you think his performance in Sunderland was anything? It was terrible. He scored like 1 goal. 1 Premier League goal in like over 25 appearances. So, like, if you would have that logic that Donovan wasn't doing well for him with his club, and then not carry that over to other players is ridiculous. Another thing, but see, the thing is, it doesn't matter how old. He's only 32. So, regardless of the fact that he's old, no. There are so many players on the team that are in their 30s. Like, you know, Dempsey's only a year younger than Donovan, but no one's saying, oh, Dempsey's getting old. And let me keep in mind, I'm not hating on any of the players, most of the players that he picked. There's only a few that I am mad about. Number one is I can't even believe that Donovan and, you know, Goodson, Evans, and, you know, Johnson were selected over Julian Green. Yeah, I said over Julian Green. I don't think Julian Green should have made the World Cup roster. And I'll tell you why. I know everyone's saying he's a good player. No. Let's be clear about Julian Green. Julian Green is probably, we don't know this for sure, but probably going to be a world-class player, one of the best in soccer or football, whatever term you want to call it, in years to come. But is he ready? In my opinion, is he ready to play against, you know, likes of Germany, Portugal, and Ghana in less than a month's time in the World Cup? And that answer is no. He's only 18 years old, and he's not ready for that. He's only played for the United States once, and when he came on for Mexico, it was shaky at best. He didn't really do much in that game. I don't care if he was a substitute or not. I just think he's not ready. Like, well, you can't say, he's so good. He's only 18, Well, yeah, okay, let's look back 4 years ago to Brazil in 2010. There was one player that everyone in Brazil wanted to be selected for the World Cup. What was his name? Neymar! Neymar. 4 years ago, Neymar was still really good, and everyone wanted him. He didn't play for Brazil yet. But the coach was like, no, I think I need to see him play a few more years before I'm ready to make him play for the World Cup. And so he wasn't selected. I don't think Brazil really hurt without Neymar on the lineup. They went to the quarterfinals. I mean, they probably expected to do better, but quarterfinals is still good. And then, 4 years later, Neymar is a superstar. An absolute superstar, even though he's only, 21, 22, something like that. So Neymar will probably be one of the best players in the World Cup in less than a month's time. And I think the same logic applies for Julian Green. Take him to 2018 in Russia. He will be an impact player then. He is not going to be an impact player now. Now, I'm not saying that someone like Donovan deserved a starting lineup. I think he had to work for it. I think Graham Zusi would have been an excellent substitution for him, playing at the right mid, or whatever position they want to play Donovan, but I think Donovan would do really good as a right midfielder. But the fact is that he's been playing for 14 years, and that experience doesn't mean anything. Now everyone says well, he assumed that he was going to make the roster just because he's experienced. Everyone experiences this because loyalty, blah 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 blah. No. Donovan has stated in many interviews that he was not going to take this life. He was going to work his butt off to make the World Cup. So he wasn't all cocky and anything. He knew he was going to have to work hard. Personally, the reason why I think Klinsmann didn't pick him, I think he just had something against him. I hope that's not the reason. I don't think so for sure. But that's what I'm feeling. I'm feeling he had something against Landon Donovan from the start. Everyone says, well, it's sabbatical. He took a break. It doesn't matter if you took a break. He thought he was going to retire at the end of 2013, let alone play again for the United States. He thought he was going to be done with soccer, but he needed a rest. I think people should be allowed to say, hey, I think I need a month off. He didn't say he was going to quit the team and just come back in the limelight when it was time. He's not like that. He was there for the good and the bad times of the United States. I don't know, last year, the 2013 Gold Cup, I mean, he did pretty darn good, I'd say. I mean, he scored more goals than anybody else. And it was well, that was against, Cuba, Panama, the small teams. That doesn't count. Well, no, of course it counts. A goal is a goal against whatever team you play. I'm sorry, it's not the United States' fault that they're in North America and the other teams in CONCACAF aren't up to par with the United States, so they're going to play them against either. No matter who scores, it's still going to be against the same teams in qualifications. So it doesn't really, just throw that out who scores against who. It doesn't matter who scores against what goals. It pisses me off. And here's the one thing I will say. This is what pissed me off the most of Jurgen Klinsmann, who he selected for the 30-man roster, or even Eddie Johnson, plus the 7 players he cut. He basically cut out the players who in the past, they have stepped up when the game was on the line and they were needed the most. I'll give you an example. Yeah, Donovan. He stepped up when he was needed most. In the 2002-06, granted, the USA didn't do good in 2006, but in the 2010 World Cup, he has stepped up so much. Maybe Donovan isn't as good as he once was. Maybe he isn't one of the best in the United States anymore. But I can guarantee he can step up when the game is on the line opposed to many of the other players. Donovan has proved that in the past, and he has done. Even other players. Brad Evans. USA was going to lose against Jamaica in the World Cup qualifiers. Brad Evans stepped up and scored the game-winning goal in stoppage time. He did that. Who else was cut? Yeah, Goodson. I know USA's big problem was defense. They've never really had a good defensive lineup. To me, Goodson was the best player they could take to Brazil for playing that center back. I don't know. I really don't get some of his thinking. And not only Julian Green, like Beckerman. I'm sorry, I'll admit this. I probably have a prejudice against Kyle Beckerman. Everyone loves him, but I'm sorry. Beckerman has never, to me, proven he deserves a spot on the U.S. lineup, ever. Yes, he's done good against some of the smaller teams, but when they play against the bigger teams, the more important ones, when the game is on the line, I do not ever see Beckerman stepping up. Or who else do I not see? I don't see, I never see Brooks, Yedlin. Those guys haven't even played yet. Chandler, I haven't seen them step up yet. Where are they? Where are they stepping up? They're not. To me, Jurgen only picked the younger guys. He's throwing out the old in with the new. If you saw, I encourage you to watch, if you haven't watched already, Ray Hudson's take on not picking Landon Donovan, or Brian McBride. He did a little segment on, was it Fox Sports or something? He did his little take on that, and he made a good point, like, you know, if you're only worried about the future and only caring about the young people, you're not paying homage to the older ones. It's kind of like, I feel like this is like high school or college sports, where you have the really good freshman and sophomore, and they're good, but they're not good yet, and you want to give them experience, and just forget about the juniors and seniors. No, that's not how it works. No, not in the World Cup. I don't care what the odds of USA having, or any team. It doesn't matter. If you're in it, you can win it. And USA is going to put all their effort. They should. I don't care if they're not expected to get out of the group of death. I don't care if their odds are like 3,000 to 1 chance of winning the World Cup. They're in it. They need to try their best to win and not worry about in the future and putting the young guns in. Put the best 23 players in the World Cup, and then select who you think will be the best starting lineup for the Ghana game. And to me, I don't think Jurgen did the best job in selecting the players for Brazil. He made some good choices. To me, Dempsey, Altidore, Wondolak, even Johansson. I even thought Johansson would be a good choice. He's a good player. He hasn't done too much, but he's going to be a good player. And who else? Oh, yeah, Bradley. So got Bradley and Jones. Of course, Howard, Beasley. I mean, that's fine. And then there's another thing. Beasley's been around ever since Donovan. And what about him? Like, Beasley's shown his age. He's gotten old. Whatever. I'm going to support the USA. I'm going to try and back Klinsmann up on his decisions. But I'm just pissed off at the lack of the poor choice. I would say poor choices. He made some poor choices in some of the players. Like I said, I wasn't there. I wasn't with the United States team. I'm not the coach. I'm just a fan. Just a fan with just an opinion. Whatever. I hope the USA does well. I hope they do well. They can. If one thing the World Cup has shown, don't count out the underdogs. USA is definitely an underdog. Hey, they weren't expected to do well in 2002. They beat Portugal then. Portugal was one of the favorites. They tied up South Korea. South Korea was the host, and you know, USA did so good in 2002. You know, maybe they'll do good again. They'll defy the odds and do real well in this year, 2014 World Cup, Brazil. Well, anyway, that's my take on it. I think Donovan should have been on it. I think Donovan and Eddie Johnson and Goodson should have been in the lineup, and Evans too. I thought they should have kept out Brooks, Yedlin, Beckerman, and Green. And maybe Brad Davis. Other than that, I mean, that's my take on it. I mean, I'm just worried. I think the USA were in a hard spot enough as already, and without Donovan, I thought that was just a shot in the foot. But anyway, that's my take. You can agree with my opinion or not. You can drop a comment and give me your thoughts. I'm welcome to other opinions. Like I said, in the end of the day, it's the coach's call. In his mind, those are the best 23 players. So I'll support them. Go USA. Let's just hope they do the best they can. I guess that's all we can ask for. And, who knows, maybe they will surprise and take first or second in the group stages. So, thanks for listening. Have a good day. Go USA.